In boxing, arrogance isn't just a character flaw, it can be a fatal mistake. Time and time again, we've witnessed fighters strut into the ring dripping with swagger, grinning with misplaced confidence, and carrying the delusion that bravado can substitute for preparation. But there's one figure in the sport who has turned that very arrogance into a target. A fighter who doesn't just beat opponents but makes examples out of them. That man is Naoya Inoue, the monster. In a career marked by dominance, speed, and a terrifying blend of power and precision, Inoue has built a legacy not just by winning but by demolishing those who dare to mock him. For the cocky and the disrespectful, he's less of an opponent and more of a reckoning. Inoue fights with a sense of justice that borders on mythic. His punches don't just seek damage, they carry purpose. If someone insults him, belittles his achievements, or mocks the culture and nation he proudly represents, that opponent doesn't just risk losing a match. They risk being humiliated. He has turned the ring into a place of reckoning, where disrespect is punished swiftly and violently. While many champions ignore trash talk or let it fuel them silently, Inoue makes his statement in the most brutal way possible, by putting these men on the canvas and leaving no doubt. Take Warito Panis as an example, a top contender coming off far. A lengthy layoff, Panis didn't use his press time to talk about strategy or growth. He demanded to feel the sting of Inoue's so-called big red button. With permed hair bouncing and a smirk that dripped with arrogance, Panis strutted into the ring like a man certain of his own hype. But confidence without caution in the presence of Inoue is like poking a hornet's nest and acting surprised when you get stung. From the moment the fight began, Inoue made it personal. There was no period of adjustment, no feeling out phase, just sharp, calculated aggression. Inoue's fists seemed magnetically drawn to the softest points of Panis's defense. Every counter came with venom. The precision of his strikes left no room for Panis to breathe, let alone recover. The crowd watched, as Panis tried to play it cool, smiling as though he could shrug off the punishment. But smiles fade when they're met with fury. Backed against the ropes, Panis found himself the target of a merciless assault. A rapid-fire barrage of punches from all angles. The referee hesitated, perhaps giving the contender a chance to fight back, but Inoue had no interest in mercy. This was no ordinary bout, it was retribution. Panis, who had wanted a taste, ended up choking on the full-course meal. Then there was Kim. Unlike Panis, Kim didn't come in with mouthy arrogance. His disrespect was more subtle but no less damning. He came in underprepared, looking less like a challenger and more like a man who wandered into the wrong building. Against Inoue, that's a mistake you only make once. As soon as the bell rang, Inoue closed the distance. He moved forward like a machine, each step calculated, each punch thrown with conviction. Kim tried to respond, but his timing was off. His feet were slow and his chin was a sitting target. As the rounds wore on, desperation crept in. Kim began clowning, sticking his tongue out, waving his arms, daring Inoue to engage. He mistook taunting for tactics. Inoue, ever the professional, didn't hesitate. He gave Kim exactly what he asked for. With clinical efficiency, Inoue unleashed a devastating sequence, a crescendo of hooks and uppercuts that crumpled Kim into the canvas like a paper doll. Theatrics may win over a crowd, but they don't stop pain, and Kim learned that lesson the hard way. Then came Antonio Nieves, an American fighter known for his fast hands and louder mouth. He wasn't just disrespectful to Inoue, he was dismissive of an entire nation. He mocked Inoue's past opposition, belittled Japanese boxing, and declared that true greatness could only be tested in the American ring. For Inoue, that wasn't just trash talk. That was an insult to his roots, his craft, and his journey. He took it personally, and when Inoue takes something personally, the ring becomes a courtroom and his fists the verdict. From the first bell, Nieves was made to understand exactly what he was dealing with. Inoue's jab wasn't just a punch, it was a weapon of psychological warfare. It broke through Nieves' guard with a rhythm that couldn't be timed, setting up violent body shots that robbed him of breath and confidence. The pace was suffocating. Nieves tried to box, tried to respond, but Inoue's timing was too sharp, his defense too airtight. By the fifth round, The gap in class was obvious. Neves looked less like a contender and more like a man caught in the wrong storm. Inoue never taunted, never gloated. He simply kept working, methodical and merciless. In the world of boxing, some fighters are remembered for their titles, others for their wars. But Inoue is building a legacy on something different: justice. He doesn't forget slights. He doesn't let mockery slide. He absorbs it, turns it into fire, and then uses that fire to burn away any doubt about who he is. In the end, every opponent who tried to mock or minimize him didn't just lose. They became chapters in a larger story. A story of what happens when arrogance meets the monster in the ring. A savage pair of hooks sent Antonio Neves crashing to the canvas, his body twisted and crumpled in pain. Though he forced himself back to his feet, his legs barely steady, his pride barely intact, it was clear to everyone watching: the fight was already over. Not by the referee's hand, not by official decision, but by the way Neves' spirit had already exited the arena. Naoya Inoue, Japan's silent destroyer, didn't need to scream or showboat. His fists were fluent in a language more brutal than words. From that moment forward, Inoue targeted the body with surgical accuracy. Each punch was a message, every shot a punishment. He carved into Neves like a master technician dismantling a flawed machine. It wasn't long before Neves' corner, seeing the futility of their fighter's situation and the danger mounting with every round, threw in the towel. The punishment was too much, the risk too high. The same fighter who had called Inoue just hype was now clutching his ribs, his face contorted in agony. That night, Neves didn't just lose a boxing match, he received a harsh lesson in humility. But the story of Inoue's rise isn't just about dominance, it's about retribution. A growing list of fighters who dared to mock, disrespect, or dismiss him have all faced the same merciless fate. In 2018, it was British world champion Jamie McDonnell who dared to scoff at the storm approaching him. McDonnell, a towering 6-footer riding a 21-fight unbeaten streak, believed his size, reach, and ring experience would dismantle the hype surrounding the Japanese sensation. His arrogance wasn't subtle. He laughed off Inoue's record, even mocking his name, pretending not to know how to pronounce it during media interviews. It wasn't mind games, it was disrespect, plain and simple. From the opening bell, Inoue made McDonnell pay for every syllable of mockery. Crisp shots to the head, thudding punches to the body. Inoue came out like a sniper with a vendetta. McDonnell's jab, once considered his sharpest weapon, was rendered useless. Inoue slipped inside effortlessly, closing the distance and delivering pain with pinpoint precision. It took less than a round. A clean left hand staggered McDonnell, and then came a devastating flurry that put the Brit down for good. The referee waved off the fight, just like that. In under 3 minutes, Naoya Inoue had silenced a man who hadn't even bothered to learn his name. McDonnell would never forget it again. Then came Emmanuel Rodriguez, a proud Puerto Rican fighter who carried a sense of invincibility. Undefeated with an iron chin and championship pedigree, Rodriguez believed he was the one who would finally expose Inoue. But what happened before the fight told a darker story. During the pre-fight media day, Rodriguez's trainer crossed a line, physically pushing Inoue's father, who also serves as his trainer. The act was more than unsportsmanlike. It was a cultural violation. Inoue stood quietly, absorbing the insult, saying nothing. But his eyes told a different story. There was no yelling, no retaliation. Just a promise, a silent vow of vengeance. When the bell rang, Rodriguez quickly realized the truth. He was not in the ring with a man. He was facing something else. Something colder, more calculated. Inoue's left hook landed flush on Rodriguez's jaw, sending him crashing to the mat for the first time in his career. The Puerto Rican warrior stood up, visibly shaken, only to be greeted by a thunderous body shot that collapsed him again, this time with his mouth open in agony, gasping for breath. Rodriguez's chin had carried him for years, but Inoue found the one place no chin could protect. The expression on Rodriguez's face as he fell said it all. It was the face of a man who realized too late that some lines should never be crossed. Fast forward to 2023. Naoya Inoue stepped into the biggest spotlight of his career, a clash against Stephen Fulton, an undefeated American and widely respected champion. Fulton, known for his slick boxing skills and sharp tongue, had plenty to say about Inoue in the lead-up to the fight. He implied that Inoue's acclaim was mostly fueled by his nationality, not his actual talent. "He's good," Fulton said, "but not as good as people say." It was subtle, but the implication stung. Inoue was overhyped. At the face-off, Fulton stared deep into Inoue's eyes, trying to assert dominance, trying to rattle the calm storm standing before him. But what Fulton didn't understand was that Inoue wasn't there to play mind games. He was there to destroy. From the first bell, Inoue controlled the rhythm with masterful timing and relentless pressure. He punished the body, landed sharp counters, and slowly dismantled Fulton's strategy. A jab to the body opened the door. Then came the thunder, an explosive right cross that staggered Fulton. Seconds later, a left hook detonated on his jaw, sending him crashing to the canvas. The American rose, but the storm was already overhead. Inoue swarmed, unleashing a blizzard of punches that forced the referee to end it. All of Fulton's words, his bravado, his confidence, were erased in an instant. But Inoue wasn't done. In December of that same year, he set his sights on undisputed glory against Filipino champion Marlon Tapales. This wasn't a grudge match born out of trash talk. Tapales was respectful but confident, believing his speed and skill could outmaneuver Inoue. It was a technical chess match, but Inoue brought a hammer to the board. Tapales held his own early, but by the fifth round, the rhythm had shifted. Inoue had decoded his opponent's patterns and was striking with ruthless efficiency. A crushing left-right combination sent Tapales to the mat. To his credit, Tapales got up and fought back valiantly, but the damage was cumulative. Inoue's punches were sharper, heavier, and smarter. In the 10th round it ended, not with a violent knockout, but with Tapales falling to his knees after a precise cross shattered his balance and his resolve. He wasn't unconscious, but the fire was gone. His will had been broken. That's what Inoue does best. He breaks more than bones. He breaks belief. What connects all of these stories? A recurring theme of arrogance, disrespect, and underestimation. Time and again, opponents have looked at Inoue and seen a target. Too quiet, too polite, too foreign. But when the lights dim and the gloves are laced, the illusion vanishes. Naoya Inoue doesn't talk trash. He doesn't brawl at press conferences. He doesn't need to. His fists are more eloquent than any microphone. He is vengeance in its purest form. Every jab is a warning. Every hook is a lesson. Every knockout is a final judgment. Those who belittle him, mock his heritage, or underestimate his ability soon learn the same painful truth. The monster is real. So the next time a fighter chooses to taunt Naoya Inoue, remember the names of those who tried and failed. The ring does not forgive ego, and Inoue never forgets an insult. When you face Naoya Inoue, you're not just facing a champion, you're facing a reckoning.